Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Standing Room Only podcast. I am here with Healy, myself, Goose. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is episode 6. I hope everybody had a good weekend, a good, fun Thanksgiving, Black Wednesday, whatever you celebrate, all the above. So again, make sure you're always following us. If you aren't following us, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, social media. Instagram and Twitter is going to be the same tag. It's going to be SR Only Pod. YouTube, we are on. We upload every Wednesday, I would say.
Every Wednesday afternoon.
Wednesday afternoon, Standing Room Only Podcast. And, of course, the most important, Spotify. Standing Room Only Podcast as well. Of course, we always appreciate any feedback you give us on social media as well. We like to stay interactive. Let's get straight to it.
Well, you can find me on social media, TheHealy6. Twitter, Instagram, you can find Goose at iGoose with 4 O's.
4 O's, don't ask why.
And as always, we had a Cyber Monday sale. Subscribing, we slashed that free price, and it's still free.
It's still free.
So subscribe, download.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys listen on Spotify, download the episodes. Doesn't use up that much memory, and it helps us out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I drive an hour every day. I like to hear myself talk a little bit. I don't know about you, Healy, but
No, I do sometimes.
yeah. Anyways, let's start things off. There's a free agent signing, right? You said Moustakas.
Mike Moustakas, 4 years, $64 million to the Reds. This offseason, already way better than last season.
Yes,
and
sir.
the year before. Guys are getting signed immediately now. Probably because there isn't that big free agent. In 2018 or 2017, the problem was the next year, Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, they're
Exactly.
free agents.
Yep.
And then last year, it was, all right, Bryce Harper and Manny Machado are free agents, so we're going to just wait until we're out of the race, or wait as long as possible to see, do we get these guys? And in result, ended up with a lot of guys getting signed in February.
Yep.
So this year, there isn't that huge guy. There's Garrett Cole. He's a pitcher. He's not on the level of Bryce Harper or Manny Machado, where he'll be your star player that plays every single day for the next 10 years. Anthony Rendon's out there. He's a little bit older. He's underrated. Garrett Cole, he'll get paid. And guys are starting to show that money. I think Zach Wheeler already has $100 million offers. One could be the White Sox. But yeah, Mike Moustakas signed to the Cincinnati Reds. Left-handed bat in a good hitting ballpark. Great American ballpark.
Yes, sir.
Great hitting park. He'll be a nice lefty bat in that lineup to complement Joey Votto.
Mm-hmm.
They already have Eugenio Suarez. He'll be third base. Moustakas will be the second baseman. People are like, what about Senzel? He'll play outfield. He's not going to play second base again.
Yeah, he can flex to the outfield. I know he's a younger bat too. I think that was a good signing by them. As you mentioned, there are pitchers on the market right now. I'm still waiting to see where Garrett Cole's going to land. He's got some offers out there. The Yankees are heavily pursuing him. I know Zach Wheeler, as you mentioned, the $100 million. White Sox are looking at him. I'm hoping the White Sox, again, as a White Sox fan, can somehow manage to get him. If we can't grab Cole, maybe Steven Strasburg. I don't know if they're really targeting him. I think Garrett Cole's the big one right now. But, you can't forget about Strasburg, who has had, some pretty good games the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's one of the best postseason pitchers, and he's been one of the great regular season. The problem has been health. For the past couple of years, he hasn't been too bad. The Reds, I think they might be... They're creeping up towards the second best team in the Central.
Yeah, they didn't have a bad season last year. They actually they showed out a little bit. They have a tough division, with the Cubs and the Cardinals, and
their talent is getting better in that team. Every year, everyone's getting a year more of experience. Joey Votto had a really down year. They pick up Moustakas. They might get another outfielder at some point. They can spend. And then the rotation, they have Luis Castillo. He was an all-star last year.
Yep.
He's a young guy. You got Trevor Bauer at the trade deadline. You have Sonny Gray, who's pitched well. That's 3 guys right there. They could pick up a decent fourth starter. And if the Cubs don't make a lot of moves, the Brewers, they've already lost out on Moustakas, and they've lost out on Yasmani Grandal. They're losing pieces. The Brewers traded for Luis Urias, one of the top prospects in the Padres organization. I think they saw his strikeout rates, and they kind of like gave up on him. So they decided to move him to the Brewers, who needed a shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have one at the moment. They did re-sign Orlando Arcia. He's not the best, so they're going to see what Urias can do. They traded Trent Grisham and Zach Davies. Zach Davies, he had a phenomenal 2018. 2019, he kind of fell off.
Mm-hmm.
He will fit better in San Diego. He's a ground ball pitcher. Like, he's a pitch-to-contact guy. So ground ball, fly ball guy. Petco Park, Pitcher's Park. So he'll fit well there. They also got Trent Grisham, who's a decent outfielder.
Mm-hmm.
So decent swap there. Padres also got Jurickson Profar in a trade. So he's similar to Urias. He's a utility type guy. We'll see what Profar does. At one point, he was like the next big thing, and he just hasn't lived up to that. He's just been okay. So not too much of a move for that. Other baseball news. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the week.
Going back to what you just said about the Reds potentially being the number 2 in the NL Central. You mentioned the Brewers lost some players, some key talent. Obviously with who's the catcher that they lost?
Yasmani
Grandal to the White Sox. Yep. Who are you saying as of right now that they've fallen out of the top 2, top 3?
I think that might be the 4th.
You're saying, okay, so you're saying the Cubs are 3rd, which Cubs still have talent, and they have some money to spend.
They just have to see what they do with that money.
Yeah, that's what it's going to come down to. If they get, bring back Castellanos and,
maybe get a veteran pitcher.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
They're starting need pitching. A pitcher. They do have, now they have 4 guys in the rotation, but Lester's getting older.
Yeah.
Quintana hasn't been great. Hendricks is okay. And then Yu Darvish was great second half.
Yeah, Yu Darvish was lights out that whole second half. I feel, with Lester too, get him to the playoffs. He'll ball out. Let him ball out in the playoffs, and I mean that's why he's getting paid all the money he's getting paid. And then obviously Cardinals are the number 1 team in the NL Central. I want to say surprisingly, but not surprisingly. It's just they have a really good franchise. They're always talked about. They're
going to lose Ozuna, who's a decent bat in the outfield.
He was pretty good.
And the outfield is fielding kind of regressed.
Yeah.
The Cubs also, they need bullpen. That's why they're not as great of a team as some of these other teams. Like the Reds, they have Amir Garrett, Raisel Iglesias, who's a closer, Michael Lorenzen, who had a decent year. They have a lot of good bullpen pieces. The Cubs, they're losing out on Strope. Cishek, I think, might be a free agent. Brandon Morrow's no longer there. He didn't pitch for the last couple of years, so it doesn't matter.
Are there any big time players in free agency as far as in the bullpen? Any long
Blake
relievers middle?
Trinan just got released by the A's. He didn't get released. He had a down year last year, but Blake Trinan and the A's, he was scheduled to make a decent amount of money.
Okay.
And the A's are like, all right, we don't spend money. So he got non-tendered, which means he's a free agent now. They did have control over him for the next couple of years. And in the A's mind, they just didn't want to pay him anymore. So he's a big free agent. I can't think of any others off. There might be a couple more, but yesterday was a big non-tender period. So guys who are under control, teams are like, have the decision, do we want to keep giving them a contract or do you want to release them? Which is why Addison Russell, big fuck you, no longer a Cub.
Yeah.
Cubs finally decided to get rid of him. They kept him last year mainly for talent, which he wasn't great. He was always good defensively, which is where his value was. And one of the reasons why the Cubs gave him another contract this year, his defensive value and overall value, his WAR was 0.1, which isn't great.
That's not good at all.
Cubs cut him over talent, which kind of sucks. They should have cut him for what happened before.
Yeah.
But he's finally gone, which is great.
He won't always be a Cub, but he'll always be a woman beater, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't laugh about that, but yeah, no, I'm glad that they made that move. He clearly regressed in all aspects. I thought when he came back, he was gonna have to prove to everybody that he deserves to be there,
and he did. He started off hot.
He did,
and
yeah.
He slumped.
Exactly. Especially when they needed him the most during that run for the playoffs.
When Baez was hurt.
Yeah. Yep. Which that was tough. For the Cubs, it's not like they had a bad season overall. They did win 84 games, something like that. They were over 500. It's just that division is good.
Yeah,
so
somewhere around there. Yeah, they were above 500. The Brewers slipped in, and they lost like 8 in a row or something like that. They lost so many games in a row.
Yeah,
shouldn't have happened.
Should not. Well, they were hurt too.
The Brewers were hurt too. They lost Christian Yelich.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The Brewers were hurt. Yeah, Christian Yelich,
sucks.
he broke his knee. So yeah. We'll see what happens at this offseason is huge. There's no big name players like Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, like you mentioned. It's a lot of solid players, which, as we mentioned with Zach Wheeler and Garrett Cole, and then you have some other bats.
And Ryu too.
Yeah, Ryu. Yeah, we can't forget about him, and then Ozuna. There's a lot of potential out there, and there's a lot of teams with a lot of money. So we'll see. The White Sox and Dodgers, the latest news, have been talking. They're in preliminary trade talks with the Sox getting Jock Peterson. Don't really know the details on that, what they're going to have to give up. What do you think about that? I mean, he smacked like 36, dingers last year. Bad.
Only playing against righties too. He only plays against righties.
Yeah.
Maybe in like the White Sox lineup, they might play him against lefties. We'll have to see where they play him, because Jose Abreu is first base. He might DH at some point. Jock might be a DH, because in the outfield he's okay. He's not the fastest, and I don't think he'll be in the outfield too much longer.
Sure.
Unless he gets more athletic and loses some weight or something. So I think it would be good for that lineup. I also think it might be bad because he's not surrounded by all the hitters that the Dodgers
that he's used to. Exactly, like Bellinger and Turner and all those other talent, bats that they have. But who knows? Maybe a change of scenery. He comes to the AL. We'll see. We'll see.
With the DH.
Exactly.
Wilson Contreras could get moved at some point. I would kind of be sad if he got moved, because he's one of the best catchers in baseball.
Hands down.
The market for catchers, though, especially with Yasmani Grandal getting signed, is so weak that they could get so much value for him. So we could potentially see him getting traded at some point.
Yeah.
So as a Cubs fan, we'll have to see. Like, I'm expecting some value, some major league players back, maybe a prospect or two. So.
Yeah, he reminds me of a modern day Pudge Rodriguez. I mean, his arm is crazy, picking off guys at first base. I mean, as a Sox fan, I love watching him. Doesn't matter, him in a Cubs jersey or whatever it may be. He's fun to watch. So hopefully they can work something out there. But they get, talent for him. Business is business, right?
Yeah.
So
got to win that next World Series at some point. The honeymoon stage is over. They need to get back to winning and getting back to the playoffs.
I wouldn't mind a crosstown classic for the World Series, personally.
That'd be great. The
city might shut down. It might burn down. We don't know. It'll be crazy, but I'll definitely be there. You can catch me probably on the south side. I don't know if I'll be in the north side for that one, but
no, that would be crazy.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for talks with baseball. So there's some transactions going on, or some free agent signings. So and that's what we talked about. We don't know if we're gonna talk, have news every week, but like you mentioned,
it's seeming like it is.
It's kicking off, yeah, just right. So we're going to go ahead and transition on over to the NFL, the National Football League. There's been a change in potential playoff contenders and some big losses, and I think
wild week in the NFL.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of what ifs came true. I think the biggest what if was
the Eagles losing to the Dolphins.
Well, yeah, first of all, for them to have a 10-point spread in that game and to lose to the Dolphins. Did you see that play by the Dolphins?
Yeah.
Where they lined everybody up on the left.
They had the punter pass it to the kicker.
A little shovel pass.
I didn't see the full play.
Yeah.
Did they come onto the field in field goal formation and then audible to that?
I don't know. I don't know, but I watched the play. I didn't watch the game. I watched the highlight, and I saw them lined up. And at first, I was like, this has to be a legal formation.
No.
Because, for one, it's the Dolphins. Like, why would they run this play? But then again, it's like, well, it's the Dolphins. What else do they have to lose, right? And the Eagles all bit. They all came in for the run and a little shovel pass.
To the kicker.
Yeah, to the kicker.
Who would, like, they didn't think there's like, oh, it's the kicker. He's really going to catch the pass? He did.
So are the Dolphins going to have the play of the year again? Because they had it last year against the Patriots with that last second.
That might be the player of the year.
That's awesome.
Anyways. It reminded me of the Colts play that they ran against the Patriots, where it was similar formation, and then as soon as they got the ball snapped, the Patriots just sacked the punter immediately.
Yeah. So they tried it on them too. But so with Thanksgiving, there was obviously a few games. One of the games was the first game that kicked off.
Bears-Lions.
The Bears.
And Blau almost beat the Bears.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually a close game. The Bears ended up holding off. I think there was like an interception at the end, late in the fourth quarter there that the Bears got. It was just a bad pass. So the Bears get the victory in that game. Trubisky made a couple of good passes. Trubisky's starting to, I guess we can say, come around a little bit.
It looked good that he was making passes longer than 10 yards.
Yeah, you know what, he's playing with, I don't want to say confidence, but I don't think he's overthinking it. You know, when he came out last year, there was games where he's just on the run and he's throwing it, not really thinking too much versus I feel like the beginning
and they were winning too.
And they were
winning.
winning.
Didn't care.
Yeah, granted, he was a Pro Bowler by other players not playing or being injured, whatever it was, but he still put up decent numbers. This year, he's sitting in the pocket. They're trying to force him to be a pocket passer.
Without running the ball.
Yeah. I mean, there's quarterbacks where they are more comfortable out of the pocket. You got Josh Allen. You got Rodgers. Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. You know, and it throws defenders off, too. Granted, Trubisky wasn't hitting his targets, even if they're wide open. I feel like you have to understand that the game has changed, and you got to if there's a quarterback that can scramble out of the pocket and is more comfortable, you got to design some plays or just say, hey, go do it. So it was a good thing that they got the win because on Sunday, last night, the Vikings and Seattle beat the Vikings.
Yeah. So now the Vikings are 8-4. They choked away another week.
Yeah.
They could have had. Did they choke like last week too? I think they had a win when the Packers were on a bye and they didn't, or did they?
The Vikings actually ended up, if I'm not mistaken, they won.
All right, so they ruined it last week. They finally tied the division.
Correct. So what ended up happening was their last game was against Denver, and they had the comeback.
Yeah,
remember, Denver was up by so many, and then this week, the Seattle had some big plays where they just had a huge lead, and then the Vikings came back and had a couple big plays, and they came back, but as we saw, they just couldn't do it at the end there. So we did see the Vikings, you know, they dropped. So Packers are still in first in the division. Vikings are in second. They still have the second wild card spot.
Yeah, they still have a 2-game lead.
They do. So, you know, one of the followers on Twitter asked us, you know, do we realistically think the Bears have a chance at that second wild card spot? Could it happen? I mean, technically, if we're technically speaking, do they have a chance?
Yeah.
Sure. Is it a fighter's chance?
Yeah. They need the Vikings to keep losing 2 games. They have to lose 2 games while the Bears continue to win.
But the Bears still face the Vikings. And they beat the Vikings in their first matchup.
They play the Vikings week 17.
Correct. And so the only teams ahead of the Bears right now is Minnesota for that second wildcard spot and the Rams. So the Rams have a game on the Bears.
Rams are 7-6.
7-5 right now.
7-5.
7-5.
Okay.
Yep. And the Bears are 2 games behind Minnesota. Minnesota could very well fall because their schedule, if I'm not mistaken, isn't the easiest. They have the Bears at least one more time, which the Bears play them very well. They have their next game is Detroit, which Detroit is one of those teams.
Should be a win.
It should be a victory. They have the Chargers, who have played the NFC North pretty damn well. And then so their last 2 games are Green Bay
And the Bears.
And Green Bay's going to play to win because as of right now, they're only a game up. And for Green Bay, aside from Seattle and the 49ers, only one of those 2 teams can have a first-round bye. It doesn't matter if Seattle takes the division or the 49ers. Whoever grabs that wild card spot between those 2 teams, they can't get a first-round bye because of their wild card team. So Green Bay's playing for that first-round bye as well.
Yeah, which the Saints have the other spot at the moment.
Correct, exactly. Saints right now, what are they? Are they
10-2?
They're 10-2, and they've been playing pretty well. Breeze obviously is back.
They clinched their division.
With
4 games to go still.
Yeah, their division is not the best right now. We know Carolina's been up and down. Tampa's not the best. So.
Carolina fired Ron Rivera.
Which at this point, he's not a bad coach. It's just when you don't win, it's like McCarthy last year. Probably around this time, Packers got rid of him. You don't win, sure, you're nice, you're a good coach, you've gotten them to the Super Bowl, but hey, money's money, we're paying you, you're not winning, right? So anything could happen with the NFC Wild Card, definitely. Another big game for the week that I think raises eyebrows was the Houston Texans defeating the New England Patriots. So I've mentioned before, we've talked about it, the Patriots have been dominating the NFL like it's never been dominated. But then they've also had one of the weakest schedules as well. So not to take anything away from their defense, their stellar defensive play, but against the good teams, they've given up the points.
Yeah.
And we saw it again. We saw Deshaun Watson, I think himself had 4 touchdowns between passing and rushing. I think he caught a touchdown pass from DeAndre Hopkins.
I did not see that.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't know if they ruled it a pass, but it was, DeAndre Hopkins had it was just a little toss to him. Let's see. They did not give him, oh wait. They didn't. So it was a 6-yard. So it was almost like a boot play, like a boot action. And it looked like Hopkins was just going to run it. And it looked like what I thought was a lateral, but I guess it must have been a sideways pass. So that's why they ruled it a receiving touchdown for Deshaun Watson. Trick play. So for Houston, they go to 8-4. The Patriots, we've seen lose 2 games now to 2 teams in the AFC that are
right behind them. Well, now the Ravens have the number 1 seed.
Yeah, so the Ravens will go in, home field advantage, which would be huge. I mean, is it going to stop the Patriots and Brady in the playoffs? Probably not. I won't bet against the Patriots, ever. So, but the Patriots' remaining schedule, they do have 2 more tough matchups. Next week, they have the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have been...
They've been weak on defense.
Besides against Oakland, they shut them down, which Oakland, of course, you never know what type of offense you'll get.
They got shut down against the Jets.
They did. Cincinnati, which they should easily beat. Buffalo. I wouldn't be surprised.
In New England or in Buffalo?
That's in Buffalo. So Buffalo already played them tough in New England. Patriots did what they do best. They shut them down in the fourth quarter, whatever, the last couple drives. Mm-hmm. It was a close game. Josh Allen, who I was praising in the offseason as being the truth, the kid that's coming out. There's a reason why his fantasy points are through the roof last year towards the second half of the season. Not saying fantasy points wins football games, but it's a statistic. You know, he runs the ball, he scores, and he makes some good passes. He does make some mistakes, but with that defense, that's been pretty damn good. And the Patriots just not having Gronk, the weapons that they love to have. I'm not saying Buffalo's going to take the division, injuries. But you never know. You just never know.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Random stat. This week, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson going up against each other. They're combined for like 1,500 rushing yards on the year, which is the most ever in history.
For like 2 quarterbacks going at it. It's going to be a good game. I think that should be a fun game to watch. Both defenses are pretty good. I still don't understand how any team of 11 guys can stop Lamar Jackson, which, obviously has a good run game behind him with Mark Ingram, and he's got some fast receivers.
Mm-hmm.
But Buffalo can easily give them a run for their money. But this game could also help the Patriots as well if Buffalo goes down.
You want to talk about the Cowboys' struggles?
The Cowboys, wow.
6-6 and still leading the division.
Yeah. Well, that was interesting. So they lost to Buffalo. Obviously, Buffalo putting on a show. Their defense is pretty good. Dallas have yet to beat a team with a winning record, which again goes to show anybody can put up numbers against teams that don't win football games. Not to say that Dallas is a bad team. They are one of the highest rated offenses, but then it's like, well, is it the schedule? They've played from behind in a couple of games. Zeke isn't running the ball as much or isn't getting the ball, it seems like, as much, so they're keeping it in Dak Prescott's hands. And I think this is Jerry Jones or Jason Garrett's way of saying, look, our potential star player wants $40 million. We're winning football games. Let's keep the ball in his hand. Let's see if he deserves $40 million. I'm telling you right now, he doesn't.
No.
He doesn't.
He does
Because
not.
if you don't win football games, it doesn't matter. Dallas has been struggling.
They're 0-5 against teams below 500. They're 1-6 or 6-1 versus teams. I think it's 500 and below.
500 and below.
So this week they're playing the Bears, who are 500. So they won't go win. They can't get a win against above 500 teams.
So Thursday night game, which should be
in Chicago.
In Chicago, this should be a good game to watch,
especially because both teams played last Thursday, so they aren't at like a disadvantage.
They're both fresh. Both teams need to win. The Eagles are coming off a horrible loss against Miami, so the Eagles are right there fighting for that division. The Eagles themselves, who are the Eagles playing this week? They're facing
the Giants on Monday night.
Oh, the Giants. So
should be an easy game for them.
Should be, but Miami should have been an easy game as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Carson Wentz comes out firing. Especially knowing this is like win or go home at this point. There's 4 weeks left in the NFL season. I don't know. I just don't know if the Cowboys have what it takes to beat the Bears' defense is good. If you look at the defensive teams that have given up the least amount of points, they're top notch.
It's just
still.
Their offense can't score.
Just produce. That's it. And I thought going into the season, and I mentioned it before, and they got Montgomery, who's a dog. He doesn't like to get tackled, but they just don't know how to utilize him.
They're finally starting to.
They are, which it helps that Trubisky, the pass game is starting to open up that run game a little bit. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. They're both 6-6, fighting for the playoffs. To follow up with that, you have the Rams playing Seattle. So this is where this wild card is getting down to. These teams have good matchups, tough matchups. Bears win, Rams lose. Both teams are 7-6, and they're both right there behind Minnesota for that wild card, who at this point, who knows what they're going to do against Detroit. Should they win? Yes.
I think it was close in Detroit.
It was. They're giving Minnesota a 13-point spread, which I think it's going to be closer than that. Detroit.
If David Blau could play as he did against the Bears.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. He had some good ball. Minus, I think it was like an interception in the fourth quarter he just tossed it up. I think Eddie Jackson might have picked it off, and he had a couple bad passes in the game, but Dalvin Cook is questionable. He hurt his shoulder, so they might end up playing whoever their backup is at this point, Madison or whoever it is. Be interesting to see. Be very interesting to see. I think my favorite matchup, though, well, you can take a look at it, but mine is definitely going to be
Patriots-Chiefs?
Patriots-Chiefs is definitely a good one because
I think the best one is Bills. Oh, Saints-49ers?
Saints-49ers. Yeah.
Both teams are 10-2.
10-2. Both are fighting for home field advantage in the whole NFC. Both teams could get a bye.
And the 49ers are fighting for the division.
Exactly, because that division, hands down, I always said the NFC North was the toughest. But with those two teams alone, the 49ers and the Seahawks, they're definitely right there as, the toughest division. Saints are hot. 49ers are hot, obviously. I don't even know who I would pick. It's in New Orleans.
The Madhouse.
Yeah. They're very good at home. Drew Brees lives for these types of matchups.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those where we know the 49ers shut everybody down, but I feel like this is a game where Brees comes in locked and loaded. Michael Thomas goes off for 150 receiving yards. Brees passes for 350. Kamara might even break 100, which generally should. I don't know if I see the 49ers really shutting down the Saints like they've been shutting down a lot of teams.
They lost last week, and if this team is as good as they seem like they are, you don't lose back-to-back weeks.
Correct. And it's not like the Saints have a bad defense. I love Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he plays extremely well. He does what they need. But this is going to be a test for him too. We're going to see if he can make, those passes, if that line or even the ends don't get in at him, we'll see what happens. Because he does have some talent on the offense as well. He's got one of the fastest offenses. We'll just see if he makes the right plays as well. So, but yeah, you mentioned Patriots-Chiefs, also a big game. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Patriots fan. Nothing against the Patriot fans or the franchise. I'm tired of them winning. It's been the same as
need more parity.
Yeah, literally, it's every year they're always in the playoffs, and I would never bet against them. I'm just tired of it, and I wouldn't mind seeing Patrick Mahomes get his revenge. Obviously last year in the playoffs,
they were so close. That offsides. That's what cost them.
Who was that?
D Ford.
They didn't
even re-sign him or whatever.
Yeah, and he's a good player. It was just a bad mistake, and the interception didn't count. Brady does what Brady does best, and drove down the field. They won the football game. So, but yeah, that's pretty much. There's some good matchups, and this week is definitely going to determine where a lot of teams stand with the playoffs. As far as, we touch base every week with MVP talks.
It's Lamar.
It's still Lamar. We don't really have to get into that. Lamar Jackson beat the 49ers.
We'll give it a rest for this week.
We'll give it a rest. Deshaun Watson, I would say Deshaun Watson definitely jumped up there. I wouldn't say jumped up there. He's been up there, but I would still say Lamar Jackson is the one. But that's pretty much it. With the NFL, again, I'm trying to keep it as a weekly tradition to touch base with some quick hits, I guess we can call it, for some fantasy purposes.
Yeah, if you guys play FanDuel or anything. Yeah,
if you guys are in, my lineups are based on FanDuel pricing. I know DraftKings is a little bit different. I guess this week there's a couple of different players I've targeted based on matchups. With Cleveland, with their playoff hopes, I don't really think they have too much of a chance. I think realistically they could technically make the playoffs. I'm going with a combo of Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb against Cincinnati. Baker Mayfield, depending on, I know he's questionable, I could end up subbing him out. They're saying he should be fine, but Baker Mayfield has had some pretty relatively good games recently. He's really loving Jarvis Landry. Nick Chubb obviously is pretty damn good. He's a good running back. And then also I'm going with my I guess my most expensive buy is going to be Dalvin Cook, as long as he does start and isn't hurt, because they have to utilize their workhorse. I wouldn't be surprised for FanDuel scoring if he goes off for 25, 30 points at least. Yeah. So those are going to be my quick picks. I think that's what we're going to start calling it every week. I don't know if that's official yet. We're going to call it quick picks, FanDuel picks. But that's what I wanted to target. There's some other players in there, but again, if you want my winning lineups, you're going to have to subscribe for that one.
Yeah, that now moves us over to the NBA.
The NBA.
Carmelo Anthony Player of the week for the Western Conference. I think that was BS.
Yeah.
Totally BS.
It's a joke.
His team went 3-0, which I get. As player of the week, that shouldn't matter. Record for a week shouldn't matter. It should matter about like the stats. When you had James Harden averaging 45-ish points the last week, how does he not win player of the week? You have Carmelo Anthony, who averaged 22 points. That's what a lot of people put up on teams.
A lot of people put it up.
45% shooting, and he got player of the week.
Yeah, 6 boards. Cussed out a couple players while grabbing boards. There should be an award for that. Give him that award. Let's keep it with Carmelo. Let's focus on a comeback player of the year award. That's what that's the category he should fall in. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to see Melo kind of finding his groove. Melo was one of my favorite players growing up. It's nice. To be fair, 2 out of those 3 wins were against Chicago.
They played them twice?
They played them twice.
Oh, no.
And both games, the last game they played them, which was in Portland, they were at home. They won by 4 only. The first game they dominated. So we saw Melo go off. I think that was actually the game we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
He ended up putting up like 25 points. He had a good game. But I'm pretty sure Hassan Whiteside in the second game had like 10 blocks or something crazy. I know we've had a fan mention Hassan Whiteside. I'm a fan. I believe in Hassan Whiteside. I think he gets lazy at times. But overall, when he's on, he's a very good basketball player. And I just don't think Melo deserved Player of the Week honors when he had other guys going off.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from Melo, but that's...
Not trying to hate, but it's just a weird situation with other people playing way better than him.
Luka Doncic.
It's like an average great player week for him.
Yeah.
22 points.
It's bullshit is what it is, but...
It's a Player of the Week award. It's not, at the end of the day, what does it matter?
Yeah,
it doesn't
Harden's
matter.
still going to get 12 of those, and, Russ might get a couple, LeBron and Anthony Davis. Those are the top-notch players. Do we expect Carmelo to be considered in the front runner for All-Star? Well, All-Star voting he might be because it's all fan-based.
Yeah.
So, the dude can average 20 points a game and all of a sudden is leading, might be top 3 for fan votes, which I don't think is right. But that's going to end up being the situation, almost guaranteed. But we know he's not an MVP front runner. He'll be a comeback player of the year candidate. There's some other ones out there, but yeah, I definitely had a target on that. I'm glad you were just as frustrated as me because, when I read that and I think other, the articles that I read, people were like praising him. And then I'm reading the comments section and everybody is feeling how I was feeling. Like, oh, this is a joke. Like Harden isn't in the league. Apparently it's everything I was thinking. Good player for the week. Sure. We'll call it. I'm not going to be too frustrated. Week. He did.
It's just Player of the Week honors. Just no.
It's a joke of an award, clearly. So, but besides that, we did, let's see. The Lakers are still dominating. They've only had 3 losses. I think every week we touch base on them, and they've lost 1 game for the week, if that.
Yeah.
They're still in their last 10, 9-1. They
won today.
Yeah, they did, which they beat the Nuggets today.
In Denver.
We had another fan reach out on Twitter.
Yeah, shout out to Marcus. He asked us if we think the Denver Nuggets are a legitimate like playoff team, or they're just like good in the regular season and they won't do anything.
I know we touched base before we started this today. You don't think that they are?
I think they might. Depending on where they finish, I could see them winning 1 round. The problem with Denver, just like with baseball, I think the altitude really affects them. You see it every single year. Doesn't matter what team they have. Their home record, they're like 30-10. And then their road record, they're like 500 or maybe even like below 500.
It's a different altitude that they're running in. And these guys are running for, 30, 35 minutes.
Yeah. So it's hard to adjust when you aren't at home. But when you are at home, you do get the home court advantage because you're used to the thin air.
And everybody else is adjusting to that. Kind of like with football a little bit, not quite, but, they kind of had the advantage there, at least baseball-wise. Teams go there and everybody.
Pitchers never go to that.
Pitchers never are good there. But I personally disagree. I think the Nuggets will be the team to challenge. So you're going to have the Nuggets and you're going to have the Clippers that are challenging LeBron and the Lakers.
Not the Rockets?
I don't know. I don't know if I see the Rockets. The Rockets are very good. I guess if we did a top 4, sure. Clippers, we're still waiting for them to come around. I mean, I personally think the duo of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is one of the nastiest duos on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But, Houston is good, yes. The Nuggets beat Houston again. That was at home. They beat Boston at home. They went on a pretty good winning streak there. They beat Miami. They beat Philly. They beat some really good teams. And I like the genetic makeup of this team. They have Nikola Jokic, or Jokic, whatever you want to call him. He's the Joker. He's pretty damn good. He got a lot of hype last year in the MVP talks, which he should have. They have Paul Millsap, who is a veteran who is aging like fine wine. I mean, he's been in the league a while and is still putting up numbers. Jamal Murray, I love. Gary Harris and Will Barton. They have a lot of talent. They have who just came back, Michael Porter.
Yeah.
He came back.
He's a rookie this year. Technically a rookie
because he had the back surgery, I think, going into his rookie season.
Yeah, so he didn't play any games.
Didn't play. He came in shooting okay, I guess, for somebody that hasn't played in a while. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of guards. And I think it's one of those teams where I think they're going to give the Lakers or the Clippers a run for their money. Would I gamble on them going to the finals? No, maybe the Western Conference Finals. I know they got pretty deep last year in the playoffs. Like you said, first round for sure. I don't know if anybody besides, Lakers or Clippers are really guaranteed to get to that conference finals.
Yeah.
So Rockets are good. I would be happy to see the Rockets go. Just to see Harden and Westbrook teaming up again after so many years and to just do it. But, besides them two and Clint Capella, they don't have a whole lot going on.
No, they would need they need a trade.
Yeah, a trade. I know, I like PJ Tucker, the man who owns 200,000 pairs of shoes, who probably changes his shoes 8 times in a game. So I like his style, and he's pretty consistent from the long range. There's been some games where I played him in FanDuel, and I'm like, wow. He's a cheap buy. He puts up numbers. He fills his role. He knows he's a role player. He's almost like how Korver has been, or JJ Redick has been, in the recent years. He's going to come off, not necessarily come off the bench, and he's defensive. Yeah, he's not bad defensively.
They lost in double overtime, as we're speaking, 135 to 133 for the Spurs. Listen to what some of these stat lines are. So James Harden dropped 50 points.
Goodness.
9 rebounds, 6 assists. He shot 11 of 38. 4 of 20 for 3. Free throws, 24 for 24. 24 of his points came from the free throw line today.
Wow.
After shooting 28%. Russell Westbrook, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists.
He shot almost just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah, 7 for 30, which is worse than Harden. And he was 1 of 6, and he had 4 free throws. I don't know how they were in that game.
It's funny because when you look at the stat line, I know a stat I like to look at is that plus minus. Their whole starting lineup is plus 11, 18, 16. And then you get to Harden, -3. Westbrook, -8. this is my point. In the playoffs, these guys, Westbrook, when he goes cold, he's cold. Harden, when he goes cold, is cold. Harden put up 50 points. Sure, 24 free throws isn't going to happen every game.
No.
I was watching a video on Instagram, and a fan yelled. And I think he said something like, we're tired of seeing free throws. And he chirped back at the fan. He's like, well, I'm tired of getting fouled. Which he does get hacked a lot because he's smooth with the handles.
He's a magician. He knows how to work it.
His Euro step is second to none. He's very good. He has a really good step back. I mean, he's just good overall. Good at getting to the line. That's interesting, though, that they lost. And then if you look at the Spurs, it's spread out. They had DeMar DeRozan put up 23 points. And actually, the Spurs' whole starting five is all in the minus, right?
Yeah.
So, Derek White, minus 24. Rudy Gay.
Lonnie Walker. 29, and he was...
Player of the game.
28 points.
28 points. If you ask me who Lonnie Walker is, I would say minus a couple of games I've seen him show potential. I have no idea who this guy is. Lonnie Walker the fourth, to be exact.
I don't know the other three.
I don't know. I definitely don't know the other three. DeJounte Murray, I actually really like him as a player. He played 17 minutes, which I know Spurs do that with their guards. There's never one solid guard. There hasn't been since Tony Parker. But even then, they would always end up playing like Patty Mills, who's still on the team.
He played 35 minutes.
Yeah, so they played two. Lonnie Walker. Let me see this. He's a shooting guard. Awesome haircut.
Oh, my goodness.
He's got the Alfred Payton going on. Hasn't done anything all season. But this is what the Spurs do. And this is why they're so successful. They have these guys that nobody knows. They're going to have 2, 3, maybe 4 games out of the year where they go off to put teams on their heels to say, shit, they still have Greg Popovich. Anything's possible. They still have LaMarcus Aldridge. They have a guy, Lonnie Walker. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody knew who Kawhi Leonard was at one point until all of a sudden he started going off.
Yeah, they breed role players.
They do. And they play extremely well.
Team ball, yeah.
Under Popovich. I mean, that's good team basketball obviously wins a lot. I mean, the Spurs were contenders for how long? And they never had MVPs. Well, Tim Duncan was an MVP. He was one of the best to ever do it. But yeah, they're like one of those. They're almost like the Patriots. You know, it's like, okay, they're good. You know, obviously they don't have their Tom Brady anymore. But when healthy, they could be extremely well. So that was that game. We have Dallas dominated.
Luka's a beast.
Luka's, dude has been balling out. I mean, second-year player. What is he, 20? This kid,
he's not 21 yet.
I can't even offer this guy a drink.
No.
When he comes to Chicago for the All-Star game, I want to meet up with this guy and say, hey, bruh. You know, but he's been balling out. He compliments. He makes everybody play well.
Which you love to see that.
You love to see it. Kristaps Porzingis had 7 points, shot 2 of 11, 6 rebounds, but he had 5 blocks. So, if I'm a Mavericks fan or if I'm their coach, for one, they won by 20 points. Yeah, against the Pelicans. Okay. But to see Porzingis get 5 blocks, I'm like, all right, you did your job. Those blocks can turn into buckets. You know, that's points off turnovers. I don't know if you'd call it a turnover. It's a block shot. But, you know, that can lead to transition points or fast break points, which is a huge stat.
Yeah.
I mean, Luka was just lights out. 18 rebounds.
Tonight?
Yeah, he had 18 rebounds. He had 5 assists. Overall, just doing what he does best. I mean, he's been having... I don't think he's had a bad game. He beat the Lakers. We saw that. LeBron was...
Did they win? Or I thought the Lakers won in the end.
Did the Lakers end up... I don't think so. Did they come back? I mean, it had to have been a comeback in that game. No, they beat the Lakers by 14. They did. So they had a huge lead, and it was their third quarter. They outscored them by like 20 points, and that was when Luka had some crazy plays, some step backs, and LeBron gave him a lot of praise. And I'm pretty sure LeBron LeBron saw that and was just like, okay, he balled out against me, he balled out against Anthony Davis. So overall, I like where Luka's playing right now. They're 13-6, first in the Southwest. Not to take anything away from LeBron, but he's right there as MVP candidate right now for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely a lot of guys still in there. The guys who have been playing well, they're continuing to play well.
Yeah, and, obviously with the standings, it's nothing really much has changed. In the East, we still have Milwaukee, Miami,
the Celtics
Toronto.
dropped 3.
Celtics did lose, yep. All I'm saying right now to everybody watching and to everybody who has been giving me heat about the Bulls being an 8th seed, they're only 2 games out. They have 7 wins on the season. Orlando has 9 for that 8th seed. Kobe White has had some big games. Zach LaVine, we saw. They're very talented. Once we get that genetic makeup on how we're going to play our starting 5 on a consistent basis, and Boylan, maybe, I don't want to say he's the reason, but maybe he can pull his head out of his ass just a little bit. They could be an 8th seed team, and I can quiet everybody on the hush-hush.
Yeah.
So, but that's pretty much it with the NBA. There isn't really much to talk about there. I think that's going to wrap it up. I don't think there's really much more.
No, not a lot of. There wasn't a lot of intense games last week with the NFL.
Yeah, and with the holiday, I know the NBA doesn't play on Thanksgiving. I know they played early on Black Friday, and but there wasn't a whole lot going on. We did touch base with Melo. I guess we'll have to tune in next week. There isn't really too much to look forward to. I know with the holidays, there's a lot of big matchups, but we're a couple weeks out. It's always after New Year's when we're like, okay, we're about almost halfway through the season. We're approaching
playoff time for football, too.
In playoff time. Exactly. There's a lot. And, baseball, too. Don't catchers and pitchers report in February? Yeah. So baseball is almost year-round, which, I personally love. I haven't been keeping up too much with the free agency. I kind of wait and catch up all at once. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's tuned in, that's listened to our episode this week. Again, make sure you give us a follow on Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, our personal accounts. I am iGoose with 4 O's on Instagram, 4 O's. Remember that, don't ask why. And then we have Healy.
The Healy 6, Healy 6. Yeah,
and actually, Healy, you have he has a YouTube channel as well. Make sure you subscribe to that. He's a content creator for the MLB The Show. Makes awesome content. If anybody, games, he streams every once in a while.
Interview MLB players.
Yeah, follow him. He's definitely your guy if you're into any of that. So, make sure you give us a follow. Show some love. We love the interaction on social media. Keep asking us questions, and we'll keep talking.
We'd love to. I can't think of the word.
Just interact.
Love to continue putting it into the podcast to add topics.
Yeah, and if there's something you don't like, let us know, and we like to debate a little bit. So, but yeah, definitely make sure you tune in next Tuesday night, I would say, for the Spotify, Wednesday midday for the YouTube channel.
Yeah, you could generally find the Spotify midnight Eastern on Spotify. YouTube video goes out on afternoons on Wednesday.
Yes.
So sometime in the afternoon, let's say 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep.
So if you like watching the podcast, you can catch it then. If you enjoy listening on your way to work, we got you for the morning.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's going to do it. We appreciate everybody.